Hello everyone, welcome to Redbust US channel. In this video, we'll look at the USCIS final rule that was published in Federal Register yesterday related to H1B Lottery, where they will actually base the lottery now based on wage levels related to LCA. And what we'll do is we'll look at the summary and what USCIS responses were, and also look at if there'll be lawsuit on this. So if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please consider subscribing to our channel for getting regular updates on these kinds of topics. So this is what we will cover in the video. We'll look at the background. We'll look at what has happened so far, and then we'll look at the changes. What are the final changes, and what is the DHS response to the public comments, and we'll look at next steps when it will be effective and other aspects as well. Now, in terms of news, right? So this is what was published on USCIS website. So this is the official press release done by USCIS, where they say that they plan to modify the H1B selection process to prioritize wages. And similarly, this is the actual regulatory document that is published on Federal Register that actually talks about modifying the registration requirements related to the H1B filings. Yeah. Now, in terms of background, right, so the first thing is this rule was actually published on November the 2nd last year, and this was published in Federal Register, with all the details seeking public comments. The reason for that is the current lottery is based on random selection, meaning there is no preference or criteria today. What they want to change is to make this based on wage levels. And the reason for publishing this is based on a host of things. And the primary one is previous, or I would say still current, Trump administration's Buy American, Hire American policies, or the proclamation that was signed that actually bans entry of H1B and L1 workers who are a threat to labor market, right? The logic behind this I would say regulation is that higher wages are indication of higher skill, and they want to actually pick the workers with the highest skill from the pool of H1B lottery applicants. Yeah, so that's what they want to do. And in fact, we've done a video in the past, and that actually does all the computations. It actually impacts about 163,000 filings, because this is based on historical data. I will put the link in the description that talks about all the details, that actually explains how we came up with this number. So you can watch that other video. In terms of status of this, right, this rule was published for 30 days comment period, and it started on November the 2nd. And after the during the comment period, there was about 1,103 comments in the 30 days, and there were about 388 comments for information collection before the comment period ended. So overall, there were a lot of comments, and in fact, the document is pretty big. It's 184 pages, and of that, 120 pages are actually basically responses to these comments. And it took me some time to actually go through all of these pages, so that's why we're doing it today instead of yesterday. In terms of what are the primary changes, in terms of the regulation from the proposed rule after comments? Sadly, or I would say ironically, there are no changes from the proposed rule, what was proposed. So there are technically no changes in the regulatory text since it was published last year. So all what was in the proposed rule stage continued to be in this. So they did not really make any changes. All they did was they responded to these comments saying that all these 1,000 comments or so, saying that they stick to their stance, and they've just justified whatever was given. So basically, they have not done any changes from the proposed rule stage. So this is the screenshot of actually what you see. See, it clearly says DHS has declined to modify the regulatory text proposed in the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking NPRM published in Federal Register. Therefore, DHS is publishing this final rule as proposed in NPRM. All in all, basically, whatever was there in last year's regulation text, it is as is. There is not many changes. So that's what has happened in the final rule. And the reason for this is they're actually rushing through the process without any kind of detail. So that's why you probably see this in this format. In terms of, so this is, we'll quickly cover the basics for any of you who are new to this process. If you know this, you could skip this section. So basically, whenever somebody files an H1B petition, they file something called a labor condition application. It's called LCA, and the LCA is certified by US Department of Labor, and each of the LCAs has this wage level. So the reason we are covering this is because you need to understand wage levels and what is SOC code. That's why we are actually giving a brief overview. So LCA has something called its wage level, and it's based on the SOC code. SOC code is nothing but standard occupation classification code, and it is tied to the job title and everything, right? And wage levels are actually set by US Department of Labor, and this is based on OES, wage survey that they do. And for H1B context, there are 4 wage levels: level 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the higher wage means you're more experienced. So that's what it means. And the wage rates, basically the salaries, are actually tied to these wage levels. And this is based on something called OES wage data. OES stands for Occupational Employment Statistics, survey. And this is OES wage data that is actually gathered by US Department of Labor. And these numbers are the ones that are used for actually coming up with these wage levels and salaries. Yeah. So hopefully you got a brief overview of what all of these means in terms of wage levels. Now, in terms of looking at wage levels, ranking, and selection. So this is actually the crux of the final rule. And what this says is wage level is a good indication of skill level and data supports it. So that's why what they do is first they will actually sort all the rank the H1B registrations as per wage levels, based on what was indicated by the employer, and they sort them on these OES wage levels with the highest level first and the lowest, and then pick the highest levels first. Yeah. So all in all, what they do is when let's say you get all of them, so they'll sort from level 4 through level 1 in a I would say highest to lowest, and then they'll start to pick applications or registrations starting with wage level 4, and they keep going until they meet the stipulated count, right? And in terms of the way they pick is if let's say there are all H1B registrations based on level 4, let's say they meet the 85 cap quota, then they will not go to level 3. So in cases where they do not have enough in level 4, then they'll go to level 3. So the same thing applies. So this is what they mean by the lottery selection will be based on wage levels. So the higher wage levels get priority here for the selection. So that's what it means. And in terms of what if there are many registrations on same level. So the reason for this situation is let's say they are doing this random selection, and for example, as an example, right, let's say they started at level 4, and they have picked up to 60,000 slots of the 85k, and now they're left with 25,000 slots. Now imagine there are 100 registrations for level 2 wage in the pool, right? Then what they need to do is they need to basically pick 25,000 slots only from this 100 registrations. So this is where they apply the random selection lottery. Yeah. So there is a little bit of lottery in this when there are applications from the same wage level. So that is what they do when there are more applications. In terms of other aspects in the final rule, if the H1B worker is working in multiple locations, then USCIS will pick the one with the lowest wage level. Example is, let's say you have an H1B job that has wage level 1 in Atlanta and salary of 75k, and you have the same person working in San Francisco on a wage level 1, but the salary is about 90k there. So what happens is this kind of situations is, even though the salary in SFO is high and may fall under wage level 2 in Atlanta, they cannot use wage level 2 for the purpose of the lottery registration. They need to actually use wage level 1 because that is what is the lowest level in that. So let's say if you have wage level 1, 2, I mean, whatever it is, right? So the whole idea is that you have to pick something that's the lowest level, in both places. So that's the rationale. And also what they say is you cannot really do any amendments or extension, amendments to the actual original H1B and put them in lower wage levels, later point. This is basically if somebody, let's say during lottery period, they file it as wage level 4 and later they file an amendment or extension to lower the wage level because they got picked in the lottery. So these kind of situations they want to avoid. So that's why they will not entertain this and they will actually revoke if somebody does that. So there is no change in the H1B lottery order. So the order of lottery remains the same. What it means is first they will select the, as you can see on the screen, this is the actual thing, lottery process. I'll let you watch that. But the idea is they have not changed it. First they will select the regular quota petitions and then they will select the master's quota related petitions. Yeah. In terms of less registrations, so if there are less registrations, let's say they open up the H1B registration period for 20 days and they get less than 85,000 petitions, then in that case they won't use this because it's not logical. But in reality, right, we had lottery for the last 8 years, and in fact last year we had about 275,000 registrations. So that's quite a big number. So we don't expect that this situation will ever arise. But if there arises one, then this is what will happen. Now, in terms of how many will they select, right? So this is something that's been debated, and this number was actually not shared in the past. But USCIS, what they do is they actually select more than what is required for the 85,000 because they account for denials, withdrawals, and revokes. Just to give a perspective, last year and year before, they had about 110,000, 109,000 petitions selected for the 85,000 quota cap. So that tells you that there is actually a good number of access petitions that they pick to account for these denials. So if you go by the same number, then USCIS would pick about 110k petitions for 110k registrations for FY 2022, which have about 83k for regular and 27k for masters. Yeah. So this is based on data that is shared by them in the registration, or I would say the regulatory document. In terms of public comments, right? So why they did not change any of these things that were in the original document is they give explanation, and all their explanation is pretty straightforward. They don't give any data, but they say wage level is equal to higher skill level, and the higher wage is equal to more skill. So that's all. Period. They don't give any data. They refer to some studies, but they're not very compelling enough. So they just make a blanket assumption based on that. So there were many concerns raised by healthcare workers and doctors and all of them who say that when they work in rural areas, they can't really get higher wage levels, so they'll be not picked. So they say that, okay, federal programs have physician national interest waiver kind of programs, and there is Conrad 30 programs. So there are other programs that they talk about, and they're all cap exempt. And so they just say that they're all cap exempt. So the doctors, and also ironically they say that doctors from foreign countries are actually in entry level wages are displacing US medical graduates in some aspects, but they don't provide any data. So this is kind of not clear, but this is actually a big concern because it's not compelling enough, the explanation that they've given there. In terms of universities, they also raised a lot of comments on that, and they said that universities are cap exempt, and research entities also cap exempt, and also they give data point telling that FY 2020 there are about 41,000 cap exempt H1Bs filed by universities and everything. But the reality is not all research entities are actually cap exempt, so they have to be even non-profits, I would say. So they have to be associated with the university. So there are some clauses there not very clear. So this is also some cause for concern for some of them, right? And another big aspect of comments was foreign graduates, usually master students who graduated. So they say that, okay, they can't be, they are disadvantaged, and they say that, okay, they can use OPT, STEM OPT, get some experience, and then they can apply for higher wage levels. And they say if employers want a lower wage thing, then they can hire entry level workers from them, right? And they say that the whole idea for this is to stop abuse of the H1B program and reduce the low wage, hiring of low wage workers. So that's what they say. And there were other concerns on economy that some companies will move out of the US. So they say that it won't impact overall market conditions because all they're doing is trying to provide a way to hire more skilled workers, and their goal is to actually protect US workers. So if there are entry level jobs or anything that has lower wage, they can hire entry level workers in the US. Yeah. And in terms of legal authority, they say that they have the legal authority because Congress left it open. They did not really mandate that anything there. So it's a left interpretation. So that's why they're actually going with this, and they're free to interpret and define this process. Again, this can be challenged as well, right? So also there was a lot of comments on impact to small businesses, that they cannot pay high salaries like large companies. So they say that in such cases they should hire US workers for entry-level positions, and they say they studied 300 plus small businesses. But yeah, again, the data is actually very skewed, I would say, right? In terms of next steps, right? So the next steps is it will be published on Jan 8th. As I checked now in the morning, it's not published yet. So it will be effective from March the 9th, which is 60 days from the date it's published, as you can see on the screen. That's a screenshot that you find now. And so that's when it will be effective. But will it apply to 2020 season? Yes, as per DHS, because they say that there is sufficient amount of time for H1B 22 registration season. And this is what, as you see on the screen, this is the text that I actually picked up from the regulatory document. It says, DHS agrees that this rule is being published with sufficient time to implement for FY 2020 registration period. But the reality is, the registration period last year from March 1st to March 20th. Now, if they have to stick to this, the rule will be effective only on March 9th. So they'll have to shift these dates if at all this has to become a reality. So we'll have to see what comes out of it. Again, we'll look at the aspects of the reality in the last part, right? Now, in terms of lawsuit potential, this is something that many have asked in the past. In the past, it was in a proposed rule stage, but now the rule is final and published in Federal Register. So there is a high potential for lawsuit because no public comments or guidance was considered by DHS. While many flags were raised, none of that was considered. So this is something of a concern, I would say. And DHS skipped the OMB review, basically Office of Management and Budget Review. That could be a big point actually, because this is one of the reasons the other two H1B rules were struck down, because there was no proper review. So DHS skipped this, giving some other clauses. So again, this also could be one of the big point, right? And there is no proper data-backed explanation for this medical professional situation, especially the impact to non-profits that are not cap exempt. So there are a lot of loopholes in the logic. So there are all potential points that litigation is possible on these aspects, right? And again, this was actually in Trump's agenda tied to the Buy American, Hire American. But as the administration has changed, and all of these things, will be change. I would say may change because we don't know how the new administration will prioritize. But it's very likely there will be lawsuit. There are already some attorneys talking about this on Twitter, saying that there could be lawsuit and they'll file this. So there's very likely a lawsuit potential on this, right? Now, in terms of what Biden administration can do, Biden administration will be taking office from Jan 20th, and now that it's official, with all the things that have happened in the last few days, right? It's official now. It's all officially certified. So they can, Biden administration can hold on to it or not make it effective, because they don't want to prioritize, and DHS may or may not prioritize it. So if you look at this memo, right, this was from Trump's term when he was starting. So he passed a memo saying that all the rules that are passed or that are not effective yet, put them on hold or delay their implementation by 60 days. So something like this could be done by Biden if he wants more time to review this, and then it may never even make it. So this is a potential option as well. So again, we have to wait and see how Biden administration will handle this. So we'll have to wait and see how this overall thing will pan out. Again, thank you for watching. Do subscribe for getting regular updates for our channel. Thank you so much. Bye.